we're excited to be back in Nashville from being on the road for a couple weeks. Now you can feel the intensity and I would say the seriousness of welcoming New England here to Geodis on Saturday night. I think we're all excited to get going with the regular season, and myself included, with the first game of, for me, is in terms of the full, for a full season in 2025.
Great, thanks. We'll start with questions in the room again, and a reminder, if you do have a question on Zoom, through the hand raise function. We'll start on this end. Go ahead, Garrett.
Coach Walker spoke about things just being a little bit much more on the same page this year now that there's been a lot more time. How confident are you that this preseason time together was enough to where you'll be able to hit the ground running?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the beginning it's a fresh start. It's a new chapter for us, and so the messages are able to be consistent. The voice is able to be consistent and similar, and we're able to kind of build each day on those same similar themes. And I think that gives players comfort. I think that gives the team clarity on how we want to play. And I think we've made our initial steps in preseason to get everybody on the same page. I think we're confident that we've been able to accomplish that, and now we just have to put it all together, Saturday night, and try to start our I would say our goal or our objective of putting consistent performances together, and this will just be match one, and then we'll use that as our launching point.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Walker mentioned that you guys are kind of starting to get into more of the film work for New England, but I'm just curious, it feels like there are some similarities with them just missing the playoff last year and making a lot of new additions to their roster. What have you seen from them in preseason, and kind of what are you expecting from them this weekend? Yeah,
I think you see some of the same things that they have. They have a very good coach, a coach who's won in this league and who knows how to win in this league. So Caleb, we know when Caleb brings a team to us, or when we went to play them last year, it's a team that has really good ideas with the ball, really good ideas without the ball, and come with a really strong mentality. So that's the message that we're telling our team. As you evaluate them, there's massive changes to their team. I think somewhere like 15 or 17 new players. So anything that happened in the past has no I would say correlation to what we expect happening on Saturday. We're going to continue to do our the process that we have to analyze the opponent and prepare the players for the opponent, as well as making sure that we stay focused on ourselves. But we have full expectation that it'll be a strong New England Revolution team that's motivated, and again coming out of preseason, I'm sure with a lot of optimism and a lot of I would say new excitement, especially with the amount of new players that they brought in.
Okay.
BJ, I think it's fair to say that just about every team in the MLS is getting better every season. Probably New England is, and the East Conference is. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have New England, who's definitely a team that revamped their roster, and we expect them to get back to the winning ways that they're used to. I think the Eastern Conference in general is going to be I don't really know much about it at this moment, right? In the sense that there's been a ton of player turnover and a lot of coaching turnover. A lot of the coaching turnover has occurred in the Eastern Conference, and so I think it's going to be really exciting to follow. It's going to be really exciting to sort of be part of, but we're just getting started, and I think after Saturday we'll start to at least learn much more about what each team is trying to do, and begin to get really familiar with a lot of the new players in the Eastern Conference.
Ahmed Qasim came in as a new U22 initiative player. Can you go a little bit? It's a pretty hefty fee from what's reported out there. So can you go a little bit into the scouting and how you came to that decision first to sign him, and then what have you seen of him so far?
Yeah, so Ahmed is a player that we did scout. And another player that I think comes through sort of the process that we've tried to build at the end of last season when I arrived into obviously moving into this season, and that's about creating really detailed player profiles of what we're looking for out of positions. And he quickly rose to sort of the top of the list or whatever you'd want to call it. With his qualities. It's a guy who I think likes being between the lines, can play across sort of maybe the three, I wouldn't say maybe the forward position, but two wingers and maybe an attacking midfielder position. A guy who likes to run at the back line, and I would say make final passes, get his teammates involved, but also not afraid to run into some of the hard areas in the penalty box to score goals. So I think he's a very complete player. And then when you watch him without the ball, he's has a high tactical IQ. And I think when you see players coming out of Scandinavia leagues, you see that they're very organized defensively. They know how to they know how to work in a team defensive structure. So that was also great. In terms of what we've seen from him, he's pending the visa process, so we haven't seen much of him outside of that. He's around we know that he's around the building and he's here, but on the field, we don't have any comment on it because he's currently inside the visa process and waiting anxiously to get that completed.
Julian?
Have you seen the, the flip in intensity now that it is a game week from the guys, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely. I think when you come back into this building, coming back from preseason, there is definitely another gear that the group goes to, and now we know we're competing where results do matter, and everything gets a little bit more heightened on all the phases. So we don't change the way we go about our day-to-day business, but there's certainly a new sense of urgency and I would say a heightened awareness of everything that we're doing.
We'll go to Jacob Shames on the Zoom.
Yep. BJ, I guess, when do you expect Ahmed to be available for you guys?
Jacob, if I had the answer, I would give it to you guys. It's not a Nashville or MLS thing. This is an immigration piece. We're trying to get him the appointments, to get the visa, and then there's a turnaround process to get the visa that is a little bit out of many people's control. It's a bit administrative, so it's kind of I'm not trying to dodge the question from you, Jacob, but it is literally like a day-by-day process as to when you get the appointment, to then when you can get them to the embassies, to then how fast they can process the visa and move on from there. So right now we are in a daily updating situation with him.
Go ahead, Jacob, if you have another.
Yeah, and I guess just with all the focus this since you come in and this recent on having a more free flowing, aggressive looking attack offensively, I guess how do you combine that with kind of the defensive organization that made Nashville so successful over its first a few years in MLS? How do you expect that to play out?
Yeah, I think we can do both. As I've said before, I think there's a lot of good that was always at this club, and there was a strong identity as to how this team wanted to play, and I think we can build upon that. So we want to be a team that has the ball. We want to be a team that creates goal-scoring chances, but at the same time, we have to link those moments to making sure that we can win the ball quickly after we're losing it. If we can't do it, getting players behind the ball and being very difficult to play against. And so overall, we want to be a team that's difficult to play against, and that's either with the ball or without the ball. And so, I think we can. I think as we continue to evolve this group and train more and play more matches and get challenged more, those will be that will be an area of focus, is to be hard to play against without it, and at the same time try to create goal scoring chances with it.
John Glennon on Zoom.
Yeah, BJ, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the fact that you do have so many new faces, especially in the midfield, and as you talked about, no doubt a lot of optimism, but is it also a little bit of a challenge to integrate so many new players, and will there be a little bit of time period for chemistry to develop, do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think it always takes time, and we look at each sort of opportunity we get to play as an opportunity to get a little bit better and learn lessons, and then from learning those lessons, creating greater partnerships and connections with one another. So it's certainly going to take time, not only specifically to the midfield, but I would say to the whole group. And I don't think we don't believe here that like the development of this group or the connections that we build are going to be like linear. There's going to be moments that it looks great, and we're also aware that there's going to be moments that it's not going to look so great, and we're okay with that. We're okay with that because our process is to continue to evaluate and learn and just kind of keep getting better each day, and looking to improve our performances match to match, in the areas that we can.
Go ahead, John, if you have another.
Sure. Yeah, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, BJ, but just sort of what is your confidence level of this group, being able to produce offense more consistently, and how important is that, not only for the team, but for fans as well, who might want to see a little bit of change from previous years?
Sure. I think from the beginning we talked about we want this team to be representative of the city. And we want people to come in all the games, but specifically Saturday night, starting as the first one, and understand that we want to be representative. We want to be a team that plays hard, that plays with high energy, that creates, again, goal-scoring opportunities. We think we can create a really strong home field advantage here at Geodis Park. And one of the best ways to do that is get the crowd into it. And so if we can get the crowd into it and they can give us a boost, we're all for that. And and we understand part of that is by playing a style that is one that has intensity and one that's creating goal-scoring opportunities.
Any others in the room? Ben?
Yeah, BJ, I just wanted to see if you had maybe a fitness update. I know guys like Patrick and Javi, you said were kind of seeing how they were doing last week as far as the preseason friendly. What are your expectations for their involvement, I guess, in 2 days? Yeah,
so good question. I mean, I can tell you Brugman and Gaines are going to be out. They're going to be a little bit long-term. Hani and Patrick are, I would say, again, a little bit day-to-day. I wish we had a better weather here to have more traditional training opportunities. So a lot of that's going to be factored into what the field surface is, what the temperatures are, and how those guys are feeling. Understanding that we need to think. We also need to think long term than just the first game here. So a little bit is that's still going to be determined for those two guys, I would say, in the next 48 hours.
And BJ, I asked you last time, like a month ago, and you said yes, and that's a sufficient answer. As are you still active in the transfer market?
Yeah, I mean, I think my answer continues to stay the same. Any place that we can try, anytime there's an opportunity to try to upgrade our roster, if opportunities present themselves, it's in the best interest that we're going to try to continue to upgrade our roster. And then that's from an overarching philosophy is we want to make this environment here as competitive as possible. So if we believe that we can do that and use those filters, I would say we're always we're constantly trying to improve. The players, we talk about always trying to get better each day using that, and it's the same for the overarching idea of the club. We're always going to continue to.
I think we're all pretty optimistic about this season. I think we're all also very excited to be back home. Preseason is never easy for a variety of reasons. Whether that's being gone from family, whether that's the rigor and demand of what preseason entails physically and mentally. It's just a lot of time that you're away, but at the same time, that's an opportunity for us to get to know our teammates better, learn more ideas that we're trying to implement on the field. And so it always ends up being ultimately a positive experience for us. But we're all excited to be back in market. Love that we get to have the first game of the season at home. And we're excited to show kind of the fans and ourselves, what we're capable of for this season. So we're excited, and I think the outlook is very positive going into 2025.
Great. We'll go ahead and start with questions in the room and then go to Zoom. A reminder, if you have a question on Zoom, to use the hand raise function. Julian, go ahead.
How do you feel the chemistry is at this point now that you've gone through a whole preseason heading into the opener?
I think it's really good. I think, we added a lot of new pieces. This was probably the biggest turnover we've had in terms of roster from one year to the next. And I think that being said, I thought preseason was a great time for us to do a lot of bonding on and off the field. And guys have really fit in pretty seamlessly. It's young guys, new guys, older veterans from other teams. Everyone feels like we're on the same page and on the same mission. So that's what you want in a team, in a team culture. And so from that standpoint, I'm really excited about the group, and excited to see what these newer guys and new faces can bring to the field and to the overall energy around our building every day.
Go ahead, Julian.
What are you seeing from a lot of the younger guys in the growth there? You mentioned them, Madame and Chris, and some of the other ones as well.
Yeah, just so eager to learn. You know, a lot of humility, a lot of eagerness to learn, and a lot of confidence too. I think from last summer to the end of last season, it was kind of like they're getting their feet wet a little bit, and now it's more about, okay, now they're speaking up in meetings, they're having their ideas, they're feeling comfortable enough to share these opinions or comfortable enough to ask questions about a certain situation. And so that's ultimately how you learn even more, is being a little bit more vocal and a little bit more confident in the things that you're saying. So yeah, really, really pleased with the growth of especially the group of younger players this preseason.
Garrett?
BJ has spoken a lot about wanting to create more opportunities since he even started here on the offensive end. Pairing that with a lot of the new faces that you've brought in over the last few months, how have you seen that side of the ball progress?
I think it's evident that we were trying to create more goal-scoring opportunities based on the personnel and based on the players that we brought in, the changes that we made, both in midfield and front line. And so, yeah, I think it's become very clear we've evolved a little bit in that way, especially throughout this preseason with some of our patterns, movements, and there should be, if we're doing our jobs correctly, moments in the attack in the final third where you're saying, oh, that's Nashville. That's their identity. That's how they're creating chances. There should be enough patterns and enough repetition throughout this season where you're like, that's something that they've definitely worked on to create more actions on goal. So I think, we'll see that starting this weekend.
Garrett, go ahead.
So obviously this is the 6th season for Nashville SC. I mean, you've been here a while. What's it kind of like to see just the years kind of keep tacking on and this franchise continue to grow in size and fan base?
I think the reception since game one, since even before that, when it was announced as a MLS club, has been so overwhelmingly positive. Not only the attendance, but the engagement of the fans in and around the community. And so seeing that grow has been awesome. We feel as players super lucky. We have an amazing job. We have an amazing fan base. We're in an amazing city. It's now our turn to try and deliver something to the city, to the state, and that's been the goal of year 6. We talk about it every year, trophies, trophies, trophies. Yeah, we come close, but we're going to be consistently competing for every trophy that we can, and that's kind of the pressure that's on us as athletes, which we want. We want to have that pressure. We want to have those big games, those big moments, and so year 6 is no different than any other year. We're obviously trying to win a trophy, which it sounds so cliche, but I really think that there's a belief in the group that this could be a great year for us to do it, and we're certainly going to try and do everything we can as players to make it happen.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to touch up on that. You talked about the optimism and then kind of the expectations. What are your goals for this season, kind of as the captain of the team?
Yeah, I think we need to find consistency. We need to find a way that I think BJ's done a great job of stripping out the emotion of a single game. I feel like in the past sometimes we've ridden the highs too high and we've ridden the lows too low, and being so reactionary is not something that we want to be. We want to be a team that is consistent, trusting in the processes that we've now built out, especially over the past year, or the last 6 months, because that's going to be a way better evaluator of where we're going as a club, is if we can stick to these processes that ultimately give us a better chance of winning every game. And so I think as a captain, it's about trying to be as steady as possible, making sure that the team is getting what they need from me, getting what they need from other leaders, and that's going to look different at different times of the season. Sometimes it's going to be, maybe it is reacting a little bit more and trying to fire up the group a little bit. Sometimes it's, hey, everyone's kind of overreacting, let's try and calm this down and step back a little bit. And that's a challenge that you always have in leadership, is reading the room, trying to get the best out of an individual, best out of a group of people. And then ultimately, we talked about all the youth, all the new guys. It's how can we grow this where, yes, maybe I'm the one wearing the captain's armband on the weekend. We have so many amazing leaders, so many guys who are capable of doing the things that a captain would do. How am I going to then empower them to have those moments? And that's part of the challenge, and that's something that I'm excited to do. going into this season, because I think we have a lot of guys who can step up in different ways.
Go ahead, Ben, and then Blair.
Yeah, just looking at the Revolution, it feels like they're kind of coming into the year maybe in a similar spot as you guys, where they had maybe a bit of an underperformance last year and made a lot of changes. What are you expecting from them? And I know it's a pretty new group, but have you seen kind of any film on them that stood out to you?
Yeah, today really begins our serious prep and deep dive into video analysis on the Revs, and getting some footage from them and their new look. But you're right, a team that is unsatisfied with how their previous season went, a team that has added some new faces, new people. Will they be in a different formation? Like, you just never know until the early phase of the season. And so we'll dive in deep today, getting a really good scout on them and seeing what we need to maybe adjust on our end. But ultimately, it's trusting what we've done all preseason, being confident in the way that we've worked, and then just kind of fine tuning the things that we need to adapt to what they do.
You were a team known for its defensive qualities and how organized you were at the back. Last season, it didn't pan out very well. BJ set a goal of 50 goals scored earlier in the offseason. Is there a goal similar on the defensive end in terms of the numbers? And also, what have you seen this offseason that made that kind of the downfalls last year better?
Yeah, I think obviously you can set goals and benchmarks and ways to deem a season successful. I think we have done that in the past. We obviously came short of our goal last year in terms of goals conceded. I think our mentality and approach going into this new season is a little bit more game-by-game specific, and I think our mentality has never changed. Like, we want the 0 every time. Sure, that's not realistic. We can't go 34 games and have 0 goals. But that being said, I think we are going to be a little bit more focused on the game-to-game basis. Could we throw out a number out there? I think the great number that you're always chasing is under a goal a game. That's the gold standard. If you're a team that can go 34 games and you're under 34 goals, that's amazing. That being said, is it the end-all be-all for us? Are we going to say this was a successful defensive year if we're under 34 goals or over? No, but game by game, are we eliminating scoring chances? That's huge, because sometimes you can't prevent. Sometimes you got to tip your hat. Teams are good enough to score goals when you feel like you have a perfect setup. That's going to happen. Now, can we eliminate the ones that are happening on our mistakes? Because I think that last year, the difference between last year's defense and maybe what we're used to is how many times it was self-inflicted. That's talking about set pieces, marking, tracking your guy in the box, diving in on a tackle, not being in the right spot. Those are things we can control. And so you're looking at the goals that are more preventable. That's what we have to get way better at. So I know there's a long-winded answer. Might not be the exact number answer that you want, but I think more game by game, more mentality based, and preventing kind of self-inflicted goals against.
And then Blair, and then we'll go to Claudia.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk when you talk about center backs about partnerships, and it's always like, this is the best pair, or this is it's always about a pair. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, and what have you seen from all the guys that will be potentially next to you? I mean, is there a ranking there? I mean, are you happy to play with it? Obviously, you're happy to play with whoever, but I guess what are your thoughts on the pairing in general?
Yeah, I think it's probably overheightened a little bit in my opinion about partnerships, relationships. Like, yeah, you need to have chemistry for sure. You need to be on the same page. The goal of what we're trying to do here at the club is make sure that everyone understands, as a defensive unit, as a center back, whoever it is, this is your expectation. Doesn't have to be, oh, when it's Walker and Jack, this is what you guys do. Oh, when it's Jack and Josh, or Jack and Jason, or Walker and this is what we do as center backs on Nashville. Sure, you can have your own little qualities that maybe enhance a certain part of that, or maybe a deficiency that needs to be really honed in on going into a game. But the way that we want to play as center backs is going to be the same. Be brave on the ball, open up, give great back angles, trust our ability to maintain a higher line, keep offensive compactness. Like, there are things that are non-negotiables as a center back, and so that's where I think it can get overhyped of like, oh, this partnership, this relationship. At the end of the day, we're doing what is asked of us as a Nashville SC center back. And so, sure, communication, chemistry, having a run of games, knowing maybe a little bit more of their tendencies is helpful. Is it the end-all, be-all? I'm not as much into that as maybe some other people.
Walker, you already stated that this is going to be your sixth season just on this team. What makes you personally get up and be ready every time you come to the field and play and stuff, even going through some painful injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I'm as motivated as ever. I think wanting so much for this team, for this group of guys, and wanting so much for this city, this state, just that privilege that we get to have the job that we do is unbelievable. And so I think you have to wake up with a sense of gratitude, and that's going to help you attack each and every day. And so, yeah, I'm motivated. I wasn't happy with last year at all. And, coming into this season, I think we have just a bunch of hardworking players that are willing to make those sacrifices and also do it with the right mentality. It can still be fun. We can still have fun during the job that we have. It doesn't mean that working harder is us showing up and really operating at a militaristic level. It's no, you can still have fun in what we do, but fun is also winning for us as pros. And so how are we going to maintain that competitive environment and that balance and have a work-life balance a little bit too? I think you're balancing all those things, but the motivation piece, man, we get to be professional athletes. We've all dreamed of this our whole lives. That's the piece that we can never take for granted, and I think that's the base level of what this group of players, I think we all have in common, is gratitude and willingness to work for the other person, and that's what it is at the end of the day.
Now, even after going through all that frustration last season, obviously the BJ was here just a few games at the end of the season. There wasn't much he could try everything he did, but there wasn't much. It was not enough time. How different does it feel now within the group, especially when it comes to talking to you guys against this idea?
Yeah, I think it's a lot different. I think, when you come in mid-season, especially with where we were on the table, the kind of race for playoffs, it's more about trying to put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. You're trying to a quick fix. It's how can we possibly get enough points to make the playoffs? What can we tweak from a game-to-game basis to make it happen? Now it's a whole different ballgame. We've had the time to grow these ideas, the preparation from a video standpoint as well. No, this is really what we're trying to do, and BJ evolving too, right? He probably came in with a clear idea of oh, I think this will work, and then now it's maybe oh, well, now we have some other pieces that maybe this works better. And so he's evolving as well, and that's part of being a head coach, is adapting to the situation and the hand that you're dealt. But no question, having the time that we've had now with the off-season training, with our preseason training, there's just a similar wavelength that's running through the team about our identity as a team. And I think we had the time to build that out, whereas last year you don't really have time to reinvent the wheel. You're thrown in the mix of it in a playoff hunt. And so it's a little bit more difficult. But, yeah, I think we're all on the same page now.